Hello everyone, I am back and today we're building a city farm, or more specifically San Sequoia's city farm. And this is a build idea that I actually had for a little while, but it's one of those builds that, I don't know, in my mind would always be quite big. And I find with like bigger build ideas, I kind of not put them off, but it's kind of, you need to allocate a bit of time, because obviously it will take more time and takes a bit more, I don't know, like, okay, kind of like mapping out, if you know what I mean. So I've kind of been like waiting for the right opportunity. And then actually one of my lovely subscribers suggested I do one of these, and I thought, well, now is the perfect time. So yes, that is what we're doing today. And you may have noticed that this is quite a big build. I mean, well, the length of the video, this is probably one of the longest voiceovers I've done. Maybe the longest one, I'm not sure. But yeah, definitely one of the longest ones I've done for a while. I didn't intend for the build to be this big. Obviously it's a farm. Making anything like a farm or a zoo, it's always going to be fairly big. But I am actually building on a 64 by 64 lot, which I didn't intend to do. Mainly because, originally I had thought that I would be building this in San Sequoia, because obviously that's a city and it's a city farm, so I need to build it in a city. But yeah, I don't know. I was looking at the sort of like lots, and I felt like there just wasn't a good lot for a city farm. I mean, my favourite lots in San Sequoia are the ones kind of in the... I'm not gonna lie, I always forget the names of the different areas in San Sequoia, but the area that has like the water, and the more kind of older looking buildings, you've got the sort of moderner areas, but there's the kind of older city, like brown brick apartments rather than the more modern ones, and that's where I felt like it would really, really fit. But all the lots there, apart from the apartments, are fairly small, and I felt like it'd just be a bit of a squeeze. And then I do know there's like the big park in San Sequoia, but that felt too put together, right? Like, it's like a big grass area that's got like a fence around it already, and it's just a bit too pristine. I just felt like that wasn't the vibe. So yeah, I came to San Sequoia and I thought, do you know what? This is a really good lot because it's surrounded by like... I know it's not like a city, but it's much more urban, right? This area compared to perhaps some other worlds. So I thought it was quite fun having like the backdrop all around the farm as being there, obviously being in the city, because I think that's quite important, because although we are creating a sort of green haven within a city, I still want it to be very much obviously in a city and not just like a farm that could be anywhere, if you know what I mean. So we are building on the 64 by 64 lot in San Sequoia, which I think is actually where the recreation centre is normally. It's that lot. It's a really, really nice lot. Like I say, it's got the sort of like buildings all around it, but then on the front you'll see there's like that massive water area, which is really nice. I really like how they've done that. It is very natural looking, right? Yeah, I do enjoy. So this is where we are building, and so it ends up to be quite a big farm. Although actually, having said that, I don't actually think I could have used a smaller lot. So obviously some things could have been smaller, but actually this works really, really well. So it's a good thing I did do a 64 by 64 lot. But like I say, I haven't done one of these for a while, 64 by 64 lot. They're big. And so it's definitely a sit back and relax kind of video today, because I will be rattling on a lot. And so enjoy whatever I say. But so there's quite a few elements to this farm. I've been to a city farm before, and it is quite cool because you kind of like, you're walking through the city, and then once you go in, you are kind of almost somewhere else, and it's very different, right? It's nice to have that contrast of being in the city and then, but like having this kind of like rusticy, very natural vibe, like right there. And obviously I just think it's really nice for people obviously that live in the city to have that kind of like green space, and like, but not just like a park. It's very like, it's got all sorts of animals that you wouldn't come across if you lived in the city. You'd come across them obviously if you lived in the countryside, but if you lived in the city and perhaps have always lived in the city, it's like something really nice, especially for children, right? Where they can go and like see the animals, maybe pet the animals, and yeah, it's just a nice day out. And I thought it'd be really good for gameplay for The Sims if we have lots of sort of different elements. So obviously we have a array of animals. So in this first like enclosure you'll see I'm doing, it is for cows. So yes, a little couple of sheds, and then I've put some cows in the game. Obviously you can change it if you want, but in that one, yeah, I put a couple of cows. And then you'll see the one next to it that I have started is for some chickens. And you can have lots and lots of chickens because I put 3 like coops. So yeah, lots and lots of chickens there. And then you'll see I've put a really big, the makings of a big pond in the middle, because I really wanted this very, as soon as you enter in, like very like nature-ridden pond, if you know what I mean. So there'd be like loads of ducks and loads of like flying things and like fish and tadpoles. Obviously you can't fish. I do put a little sign up, but yeah, you can't really fish here. It's more just for the, like the natural vibes. But yeah, you'll see, look, I've put loads of like the spawn points. So there's just like loads and loads of wildlife here. So yeah, so the big pond, that's kind of like the center of the farm. And then you'll see that I've marked out some other like enclosures. I call them enclosures. I don't know. I don't really like that word, but I don't know how else I'd describe it. But yeah, there's some other enclosures sort of to the right-hand side of the main entrance. And they are for llamas. And then there's another one for rabbits. And then there is some alligators. So yeah, you'll see as we go on me doing that. But the other things that we have at the farm are a sort of like little gardening area. So sort of there's going to be a greenhouse and a place where your Sims can come and garden. Because I always feel like sort of farms, there's a lot of activities you can do as well. It's not just kind of like going to look around. You can kind of interact as well. So I thought it'd be nice to have a sort of gardening area where, obviously if you live in the city, you can come and use that space. And then, there's some toilets. That's quite exciting, isn't it? And then there is a sort of market type space, which in my mind, when I was doing it, I felt like it might be almost a farmer's market, So obviously maybe local farmers and just this farm itself, sell, I don't know, like eggs and things from the chickens, and yeah, so just, or maybe things that they might make or grow and produce, things like that. That's kind of vibe I got. And I feel like, it's one of those things that maybe happens every week, or there's a certain day that you come on and it'll be open. But yeah, I thought that'd be a nice little area as well to have. And then we have a big children's play area and a kind of, I have this building which is it's mainly a cafe, and it also has sort of like more activities in there for your Sims. So the sort of maker stations. And that's mainly because when I did start building this, I wasn't sure of what lot type we were going to have. And originally I did think about making it a sort of community space. And obviously for the community space, there's all sorts of things they can do. And obviously there's the sub venues. So obviously there's like the maker one and there's like the market one. So I sort of was also trying to have all the elements for that as well. But actually, because this is a 64 by 64 lot, I don't know if it's just my game, but I was sort of playing around with having it as a community space and found that changing from sub-venue to sub-venue was a little bit difficult because it's such a big lot for it to load. So yeah, so I opted instead to just make it a park, but obviously you can change this to whatever lot type you want. It can be a cafe, because obviously there is a cafe. it could be a retail lot because you will see some tills and things are put around. Because very, very weird. You probably, I mean, you might not have noticed, but at the start of the video, I build obviously the main entrance into the farm, but I haven't actually done the inside of that farm yet. Inside of the entrance yet. And that is because I didn't really know what the vibe was going to be, exactly what was going to go in there. I wasn't sure if I was going to have to put maybe some of the maker stuff in there, or if actually they were going to go in a different place. So that's been left empty, and we actually do that at the end, even though it's like the start almost of like where you'd come in. But yeah, so in there is also a like kind of gift shop. And yeah, like I say, so just probably where you would go and pay to come into the farm. So yes, that could also maybe potentially be a retail lot. So yeah, lots of different options for this one. Could be many different lot types. You can just change it as you wish. And then, yes, then the last area, which I haven't mentioned that there is a sort of, I wanted this really like naturey corner, somewhere which is like very overgrown, and a sort of like quiet space that maybe your Sims can just go and relax. But also things like having like the insects and like bees for maybe like children can go and like sort of like see them, because it might be things that they don't see as like, you know, much as perhaps you would if you lived somewhere more rural. So yeah, I think that's everything. Obviously you'll see it all in more detail as we go through. But yeah, so lots of little elements. What I'm working on right now is actually the alligator sort of little area, which I was really, it was funny because when I was building this, I knew sort of like how many, I'm going to use the word enclosure again. I really don't like that word, but little like enclosures for each of the animals. And I actually didn't know what I was going to put in this one. Yeah, and then I remembered that you can spawn like alligators, and I thought this is great because there can just be one kind of floating every so often. And it looks like he's got like a little house, made him like a sort of little house area. And you would have seen just before this, I was talking over it, I do apologise, but I made the sort of rabbit area. Now, how I did the rabbit area was I used the wild rabbit like spawn tree, like the tree where they live, the wild rabbits, from the cottage living pack. And I put a couple of those in like the fenced area. And then I also used like a debug item. I think it's supposed to be like a row of, or like it's a big building originally, but I've like shrunk it down so that it kind of, in my mind, looks like a kind of hutch for the rabbits. So that is supposedly where they actually like live. And then obviously the tree stumps in my mind are just tree stumps, just to kind of make it a bit more natural that obviously the rabbits are like not coming out of a tree or like live in a tree, but that they do live in the like little hutch. So yeah, the only thing is now, I don't know if it's my choice of fence. I don't think so, because I feel like every fence is kind of treated the same in The Sims in terms of gameplay. Apart from, I know that like the really, really low ones are different, but a high up fence. The rabbits they are wild rabbits. They kind of run wild and they do leave the area. Now, at first I was a bit like, ooh, okay, this is a little bit odd because naturally there probably wouldn't be rabbits bouncing around like in the wild in a farm, or a farm that's like obviously for people to come and visit, rather than just like a farm out in the countryside. But I don't know, I then thought, you know what, this is kind of fun, because I kind of thought it's kind of a nice idea. Maybe the children can like, you know, pet the rabbits, pick them up, hold them, and it's kind of sweet. And they always go back. It's not like they like escape and run away and you never see them again, because they always come back to their little like tree stump. So yeah, so if you see any rabbits bouncing around, it just adds to the, you know, like they're natural, you know, and we let them run wild and we know that they live there. They'll always come back. So yeah, I mean, I even locked the fence. I don't know, it might be just because they're wild, or maybe I should have used a different fence, but we are embracing the wild rabbits. Okay, guys? We let them roam free because that's where they belong. So yeah. And then, so you'll see now I'm working on the sort of gardening area. So it's just a nice little area for, like I say, Sims to come, do some gardening and have a sit down maybe. I nearly put a barbecue here, but I just thought, I don't know. I don't want to like contaminate the plants. But there is like a nice like sitting area. Maybe Sims bring like a picnic with them, spend the day here, see the animals, do a bit of gardening, and then, have some lunch. So and I really enjoy it. I put the like kind of wind chimes up against the wall that's obviously like around the whole farm. I thought that was quite a nice idea. I don't know, I feel like children could play with them and just like, it's just like a nice sort of sensory type thing. And then I put the like hanging rope lights from, I think, the Cottage Living pack in the debug menu. I put them up in amongst the trees because I just wanted to feel really like, I don't know, really nice and like, I want to say cozy, but I mean, I don't know. I always think the word cozy should be for like, you know, a little room or something. But yeah, an outside space. But an outside space can be cozy. So that's what I thought we could do here. And then a little greenhouse. I say little, this is quite a big greenhouse, really. But a greenhouse where, you know, Sims could do some flower arranging, grow some other types of plants, some vertical plants. And I just feel like it's somewhere where they might store some of the like gardening things. But so it's a bit different. But like I say, I feel like the city farm that I've been to, had lots and lots of different things you could do, like lots of different activities. They had set activities going on, you know, like certain things on certain days that you could book onto, and like, you know, like crafts and doing like maybe like den building with children, really cool things like that. And and then actually one of the really interesting things that this city farm did is you could actually get married there, which is pretty cool because I mean, farms in general are quite a popular choice, aren't they, to get married in? So I can see why actually a city farm, especially if you're from the city, you might like consider it as a wedding venue. So I thought that was quite fun. And I did contemplate maybe like having this as an optional wedding venue as well. But I just thought, that might be a bit of a stretch. Like we've got a lot going on and people might not get why there's a wedding venue here. But hey, you know, you can add in an arch and then your Sims could get married here, right? Like, you know, be quite sweet. Different kind of wedding. But so that is something that would be quite fun, to be honest, for gameplay. It'd be very different. But I don't know, it'd be cool. You could imagine like closing off the whole farm for a day and setting up like a dance area. And it's very like I say, I've made the areas the kind of secluded areas that you could get some romantic moments and it'd make for some good photos, that's for sure, especially with the rabbits running around. Get some really nice photos with the rabbits running around. But so I did leave out the wedding art, but feel free to add it in because that would be quite fun. And then you'll see I just did the toilets. Very standard, just a load of toilets. Different options. Obviously put a changing table in there because I figured this is definitely somewhere where there'd be children and definitely be bringing infants and things, especially if like there's a family of like loads of children, bring them all, spend the day here. And then you'll see that I've started on the children's play area, which I just wanted to be really, really fun space. So you'll see it's a bit of a mess at the moment, but I picked out basically all the kind of things I wanted to have in this area. And then I basically had to work out how I was going to fit them all in a kind of nice, coherent way. And I actually made the treehouse. This is the first time I've actually made the treehouse from the Growing Together pack, which I know is like, what have I been doing? Because it's been out for ages. But I just haven't got around to it. I don't know why. And so I obviously had to bring my Sims in to make it. I mean, I'm pretty sure you have to have your Sims make it, right? I don't think, because even in the debug menu, when you pull out the debug menu, it's just like the trees and the boxes. So I don't think, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think you can like just build it, in build mode. I think you have to have your Sims build it. Anyway, I had my Sims build it. So that was very fun. So it just kind of popped out of nowhere because I had them build it. And yeah, playtesting it was really sweet. It's really cool actually. I do enjoy making like my own tree houses. So like obviously just like building up the trees, but I do like how it's got the slide and the pole and like, yeah, it's fun. It's got a few different like gameplay options as well, hasn't it? They can do a few things up there. So that's really sweet. So I really wanted to incorporate this. And then I also really wanted like a splash area because I thought it's like the new thing and that's like really fun. And I can imagine like on a really hot day, like spending the day here, some children would just want to, yeah, just like run wild and like put their swimming costume on and yeah, just be nice and refreshing, right? Doing that. And then, yeah, so I kind of separate that area off because obviously in my mind, that's an area which would be very like, obviously there's lots of water and things. So I kind of wanted to keep it separate from perhaps the more sort of woodland type play area, which is sort of like upper slope a little bit. So yeah, I kind of separated them off. And I think it makes for like it's just nice kind of playing around with what you can do with areas like this because I find, I don't know, you can end up having very just kind of flat plain areas because obviously the items for the children's play areas or the play equipment, some of them are like quite big and take up a lot of space and need a lot of like obviously flat tiles, if you know what I mean. So yeah, it does need a lot of space. So I find that often, doing kind of terraining and stuff is a bit more limited unless you have, like I say, a huge space. And I feel like this is quite a big space. And even this space is a squeeze. Like you'll see like that, what do you call it? Like pirate ship is kind of a bit squished in between the, like what I'm making now. So this is going to be a sand pit and the tree house. It's like not like massive amounts of space. So yeah, like this could have been much bigger. I could have made a much bigger area, but this is just like as big as areas like allocated for it. But yeah, so yeah, I do enjoy like kind of seeing the sort of shapes and things you can make with the play area because yeah, I like them to be quite fun because I find like in real life, children's play areas are like, can be so like adventurous now, right? Like they can be so cool because yeah, they just like have more and more cool equipment and so laying it out can be quite fun. So yeah, I tried to make it look as realistic as I could in the space I had. So yeah, I hope that gives vibes, I want it to be a fun area. I didn't want it to look like just a normal play area, if you know what I mean. But yeah, so now I am going to make this kind of like little market area, like I say, in the space between the animals and the play area. It's kind of also like right by the toilets. I mean, it's just kind of the space I had for it. I thought it worked quite well. But you do kind of have to walk through it if you want to go to the toilet, which works well, I suppose, because it kind of like, if you have to walk through to go to the toilets, then you might end up buying something, that you might not have if the toilets weren't there. So maybe it's a bit of a ploy. But yeah, and I thought let's put up some of these like banners like as the sort of like entrances or entranceways into the sort of market area. Yeah, just to kind of, as if, like I say, like if it's a farmer's market, I feel like it would say that and sort of advertise bits and pieces. So yeah, that was quite fun. And then this big building is the cafe and sort of activity centre, I want to call it, which is a bit of a contrast to some of the other buildings we've had, or just some of the other sort of elements, because I do make it quite modern. I wanted this to be built more recently, perhaps an addition that they, I don't know, like the farmers managed to raise money for to be able to build it. Maybe the farm has recently been taken over and they, like I say, they put more money into it and yeah, they were able to build this. I imagine maybe there was one before, but it was quite old. And obviously this is a lot which I feel like would be very eco-friendly. So I did want it to be like modern in that way, if that makes sense. So you'll see I use like the grass roof, which obviously has like eco, it's from the eco lifestyle pack, right? So it kind of adds to the footprint, like to have a greener footprint, if you know what I mean. yeah, so I do that, and I also put some solar panels on the top because I feel like, again, that's kind of like they'd use a lot of power using the sun. And I also do that on the entrance. So on the entrance, the roof type I use is also from the Eco Lifestyle Pack to, again, like make the footprint more green. But yeah, and I also put things like a water collector, and yeah, so just like a few things that make obviously the lot, like I say, a bit greener. And yeah, so it's really nice building this. And I also, the other thing I really wanted to include is I think they call it a jungle gym, the like toddler play area that comes with I can't remember what it's called now actually, but it's like a toddler pack. So you get the big play area with the ball pit and things, because I always feel like lots don't have many activities for like the younger Sims. So I really wanted to include this because obviously a lot of younger Sims would come here. Originally, you'll see I tried to play around with fitting it in the outside play area, but that would just have taken so much space. So I opted to put it inside. And I mean, it's the type of thing that would be more inside, because I feel like, if that got wet, if it started raining on all those balls in the ball pit, that would get very slippy and really annoying, right? Although maybe also quite fun. But yeah, I just felt like that should be inside. So you'll see basically the whole of that downstairs space, the main bit when you go in, is just like a toddler play area. But hey, they deserve it, because most lots don't have activities for them, right? Most lots are designed for the adult Sims. And then in this kind of like glass bit is the main like cafe area. You can go in, get like a drink, something to eat. I like to think they do like food as well. So like you could get like lunch and things. And then yeah, the cafe goes on upstairs for more seating area, and then out on the like terrace. And then there's some picnic tables outside as well, so you could sit out the front by the pond, which I feel like very relaxing. So yeah, and like I say, this is quite like not modern, but like I say, like I feel like this has been renovated very recently. So a lot of like sort of using the sort of pale woods, like very natural wood tones. And yeah, it just looks very naturally made, right? So like those sofas have been made from like the wood, and maybe it's like recycled fabric for the cushions, things like that. So yeah, and I do actually, in a minute, I think I add in some skylights as well into the roof, because I feel like it's quite dark up here. So I do add some skylights to just let a bit more light in. And yeah, that works really well. Because I've although it looks like there's one big roof over the whole of that left-hand side of this building, it is actually two. So that I could do that. And then obviously, I mean, it's multiple pieces of the roof really, like, because obviously the skylights are made from like individual roof pieces as well. But like the main roof structure looks like one piece, but it's actually two. So that I could do that, so that the glass isn't like going all the way down. So I feel like that would be quite excessive. But yeah, and then you'll see on the like front terrace area, I've put like a kind of flower box on the front as well. Again, just because like I say, I just feel like it'd be really natural looking, like lots of plants and just lots of greenery, because really this is like supposed to be this really cool green haven just in the middle of a city that you feel like just pops out of nowhere. And yeah, it's just somewhere really nice to go if you live in the city. So I tried to put as much greenery as I could. Obviously there's grass everywhere, but yeah, and like lots of bushes and trees and things. But yeah, so this is the sort of like maker area I was talking about, which is primarily for obviously if you do want this lot type to be community space. But actually I think it works, because like I said, these are the type of place that would have activities and even like host like, activities where, like I feel like it'd be one of those places where like at Christmas they would offer wreath making, you know what I mean? And you go and it's like a fun time and you make wreaths. I've never done it myself, but I see people do it, right? So it's one of those places that would do things like that. So they'd have that kind of like space where they could change it. Maybe they'd set tables out for when they do events and things like that. And saying that, I feel like this would be a place where they would do like, like events, as in like conferencey events, or maybe like or like hosting for like, I don't want to say like businesses, but you know, like it's just like one of those spaces that, like they would host places or events for businesses, or obviously they were green and natural ones, or they'd come for like some kind of conferences on the animals. I don't know. Do you know what I mean? Like an event space kind of ties in with having it as a wedding, like a place where you get married. Yeah, I don't know. It's just giving me, it's just one of those places that would just honestly do so many things in real life. Do you know what I mean? Where you could just do anything there and they'd be open to do anything there. They'd let you like rent it out for like a birthday party. You know what I mean? So yeah, I don't know, quite cool. And then this in the corner is, as I was talking about before, a sort of very nature area. And you'll see I used the bushes to create this like archway, which I really enjoyed because I really wanted this kind of like, I didn't want you to be able to see inside of it from being outside of it, if that makes sense. And most of the archways we have in this game, even the sort of like, ones made of like hedge, are really quite small, and yeah, they're also very bright green, right? So I want to be more natural looking. So yeah, I did that and I thought, this is really cool. I need to remember this because it makes quite a cool shape. I mean, it wouldn't work for a lot of builds, but yeah, I don't know, it's quite nice. It's sort of like, oh, you go through and then it's like, oh, this little haven. And there's another little pond in here, which I feel like, again, would have lots of, like wildlife living there. You'd go and have a look at the wildlife. And obviously you can see I put the insect boxes and the bees. So yeah, just really like natural. I feel like there'd be lots of insects here. Lots of little flies, dragonflies. Just, yeah, very, very natural. And also quite relaxing, a quiet place. If you just wanted to come and collect your thoughts, you'll see there's a little bench. I feel like you could just sit there or on the little bridge, because this is actually a functional bridge compared to the bridge in the main pond. That is just a debug item. So yeah, your Sims can't actually use that bridge, but the bridge in the sort of little nature reserve area, I want to call it, that is, yeah, they can walk on there if they want. They can walk across it, quite nice. And look over at the little animals or creatures in the water. It's quite nice. And then you'll see, here we are, nearing the end of the video, starting the entrance. A little bit backwards, I know, but I wanted to do the whole thing first to really work out what this space would be. And I really enjoy this little space, how I feel like, if you were coming in, for the day, you'd come in to the outside in that sort of bit under the roof, and then the overhang roof, and you'd go to the desk there, pay for your ticket, then go for the little gates. I thought it was quite sweet. And that up there, I know it's like a cafe sign, but in my mind it says like all the pricing and options and things for like, like the price for like adults, children, or if there's like family tickets, that sort of thing. But then you could also walk into this building instead of just going like through that entrance bit, if you just wanted to say go to the gift shop straight away, or maybe have like a season ticket, so you can just like kind of walk in as you please. And I also feel like you could walk in the shop and then go to the like main where you would buy a ticket from as well, if you know what I mean. Like I feel like the people there would like, depending on where there's a queue or like where people are, they would like, serve you wherever you came to that desk. But yeah, so, and then this space is, yeah, like I say, it's like a little gift shop. It's got a random assortment of things for sale, I have to say. I feel like there could also be maybe some more of the farmy, markety stuff potentially, but actually, like a farm shop, but I think most of that would be sold in the farm market itself. This is more for like gifts. And you'll see that this building is quite interesting. I really wanted this to look like a city building still, so from the outside, because of course this is something you would see if you weren't inside the farm, if that makes sense. So before you go into the farm, you see obviously the entrance building, and I wanted it to look still though much like it's in the city. So you'll see it's got the brick and these big, like, I call them warehouse windows, but you know what I mean, like those big windows that would be on like warehouses. And yeah, and then I've kind of made this, like, they've obviously put this modern type extension which is where they're sort of like using the sort of wood paneling, which is obviously very natural looking, which is where like the entrance is. I feel like they added that on just so there's this kind of like contrast when you come to it, the main entrance. And I think that works really well. So you still kind of, you're like, oh yeah, this is like a city building, but also like very eco and like nature. So yeah, I did enjoy that. But yeah, so a few little bits and bobs they can come in and buy. I figured there'd be a nice bookshelf, lots of like books, especially for children, of like about farm animals, things like that. And then you'll see I put like a railing. I feel like they'd sell jumpers and things. You know what I mean? You get t-shirts from these places. And then just some like animals. I just tried to find some sort of like animal-y things they would sell. And then here's some gardening things, so some plant pots and a birdhouse. Just bits and pieces that you might want to buy from a city farm, But yes, we have come to the end. We have made it, guys. But yeah, I will leave you with some screenshots and see you in the next one. Bye.